So you're thinking to yourself, I want to become bigger, faster, and stronger. I want more attention from women. So the logical thing to do, right, is to just jump on the juice. Just take anabolic steroids. Well, before you do that, just watch this video because I'm going to explain the side effects of taking anabolic steroids. And to be honest, it isn't pretty. But before I do that, I just want to drop a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm just a gym rat. I'm just somebody that likes working out and going to the gym. I'm not a doctor or I'm not an endocrinologist. So please take that on board. The information that I'm going to provide in this video is through my own research. So I'm going to start this section of the video off by asking you a simple question. Do you want children? Like seriously, do you want children? Because if you do, playing around with anabolic steroids is not the way to go about things. And I'm going to explain why. So basically what happens is when you take anabolic steroids, you are basically flooding your body with testosterone. This, by the way, is something that your body produces. Your body produces testosterone naturally. So what happens as a result of this is your body detects all this testosterone. So it thinks to itself, well, if I've got all this testosterone coming in, there's no need for me to produce any. So what happens is your testicles essentially shut down. They stop working. So what this means is that you stop producing sperm. And this actually leads me perfectly onto the next point, and that is infertility. Some people might be watching this, shaking their head, and be thinking to themselves, well, these risks can be mitigated. And to be fair, there's a bit of truth to that, so I'll give them that. But here's the thing, nothing is guaranteed. So why would you play around with your reproductive system like that? It makes absolute zero sense. So let's just talk about sex for a minute. When you ejaculate inside a woman, you release millions, sometimes billions of sperm cells, depending on how healthy you are, inside of her. And it's basically survival of the fittest. Each sperm cell is competing with each other to get to that egg. So let's just have it real. If you want children, you want billions and billions of sperm cells, because that means you're more likely to impregnate her. And of course, the woman's health matters as well, but you're not a woman. So the only thing you can do is focus on yourself. So if you're somebody in your teens, in your 20s, why the hell would you take testosterone? Like, why? There's no need. And to be honest, you can actually increase your testosterone levels naturally without the use of anabolic steroids. And I think sometime in the future, I'm going to have to do a video talking about this. So let's explain why anabolic steroids can potentially shrink your balls. And it has to do with the fact that you are giving your body an external source of testosterone. And it's the old adage, if you don't use it, you lose it. So if your balls don't have to work anymore, why do they need to be there? Hence, they shrink. So let's just run over some of the points that we've mentioned already in this video. Infertility, reduced sperm count, shrunken testicles, and I'm sorry to disappoint you, but it just continues to get worse. For those that don't know, erectile dysfunction basically means that you can't get a boner. So picture this. You've got a beautiful woman lay there naked in bed and you can't get it up. What an absolute nightmare. And generally speaking, this is how it works. When the person is on drugs, the sex drive, getting a boner, all that stuff, generally speaking, is fine. It's when they come off the drugs that's the problem. And some people might be watching this and be thinking to themselves, yeah, but they need to follow certain procedures. They need to go on a post-cycle therapy, blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing. Even if you follow your procedures, you do your post-cycle therapy, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed to get your sex drive back. Just let this sink in. When you take anabolic steroids, you are playing around with your reproductive system. There's a couple of things I want to mention here, and the very first thing I want to talk about is the fact that not everybody who takes steroids will lose the hair. Genetics play a part here. Some people are just more susceptible to hair loss than others. The second point I want to get across is that some steroids have more risks of hair loss than other steroids. So again, let's say, for example, you wanted to take steroids, you could mitigate that risk by taking certain steroids over others. And basically how it works is when you take anabolic steroids, you increase your testosterone levels. And what your body does is convert some of that testosterone into something called DHT. Well, DHT is an androgen that can shrink hair follicles. I want to emphasize the word can. So if you're somebody who's susceptible to hair loss, let's say due to genetics and whatnot, you are essentially speeding up that process. And I don't know about you, but if you're anything like me who wants to keep his hair on his head, to be on the safe side, I would just stay well away from steroids. So can taking anabolic steroids cause you to get man boobs? The answer is a resounding yes, and it has everything to do with hormone imbalances. Basically, the body's really smart, and when you take anabolic steroids, you're basically giving it a shitload of testosterone, too much testosterone, because your body naturally would never give you the amounts that drugs will. So what your body does to compensate for this is increase estrogen production. And estrogen is the dominant hormone in women. And you don't need me to tell you this, but what do women have? They have boobs. And yeah, I know some people are going to be thinking to themselves, yeah, but you can take certain steroids over other steroids, and this can mitigate the risk. You need to do a post-cycle therapy, blah, blah, blah. Like I've said throughout the video, why would you even bother taking the risks? So to cut a long story short, anabolic steroids increases testosterone levels. And excessive amounts of testosterone can increase sebum production. Let me spell that, S-E-B-U-M, sebum, not semen. And sebum can basically clog up the pores. So think acne on your face, on your chest, and on your back. And of course, genetics and hygiene plays a part here. So not everybody that takes anabolic steroids is going to develop acne. But like I've said throughout this video, why would you even bother taking the risk? You can increase your testosterone levels naturally. And sometime in the future, I'm going to do a video talking about how to do this.